this is green. This is the agricultural side or rural side of the county. Everything else here is suburban, and purple are cities. All right, so this is Route 90, and this is Route 2. And what you would be able to see if the colors were showing up is that the majority of our county is suburban of some kind with some cities, and then on the west end you have the rural area. Now, in 2040, here's Route 90. All that green. There'd actually be more green if the green was showing up better in the presentation. So basically what they've done, the darkest green is conservation, which means that nobody can touch it, right? So they've pretty much turned everything south of 90 into mostly conserved land and some rural, which means that everybody, if you live south of 90, you need to start. I'm a realtor. I should love this. I'm like, oh, we flip-flop them. Okay. There's a zoomed out version of that same after map. Do you guys notice anything about the picture? Ignore the text. Do you see anything about the picture?
More green.
More green? Do you see these lines kind of like making it look like a bullseye? Transect zones? Okay. That's a better picture?
Yep.
Now let's get it even more local. This is Lake County. This is the Central Lake County Lakefront Connectivity Plan. And this is the reason I spent so much time going through everything else with you, because when you come across something like this, it's going to sound great. But you have to know the language so that you can point out in your head the things that are like, oh, we need to look out for this, all right? So the Central Lake County Lakefront Connectivity Plan is the result of a $75,000 Transportation for Livable Communities Initiative grant from NOACA. Notice the word livable, I'll explain that in a second. The goal is to develop a master plan for the area encompassing Mentor, Paynesville, Fairport Harbor, Grand River, and Paynesville Township. And also partnering with them is the Lake County Health District, Lake Tran, Lake County Planning Commission, and the Metro Parks. And in their grant application, they said to help address chronic disease, our county needs to make sure that people have the opportunity to use all modes of transportation to promote a healthier lifestyle. Oh, that sounds so great. Did you guys happen to see a week or maybe it was just last week? I don't know, time flies. A week or two ago in the News Herald, they did an article that Lake County is one of the healthiest counties in the state.
Yes.
Just saying. All right, now this is really hard to see. I apologize, it's not showing up very well. This is a document that NOACA created. They basically did an evaluation on their TLCI grant program. And right here it says the TLCI program provides federal funding assistance to communities and public agencies to complete plans that improve livability. So there's that word livability again. Now luckily for us, you might not be able to see it, but they have a little footnote. This is an overview of livability planning, can be found at dot.gov. Maybe they'll tell me what livability is. And they do, right here. Do you recognize this? Sustainable community? All right, livability means being able to take your kids to school, go to work, see a doctor, drop by the grocery or post office, go out to dinner and a movie, and play with your kids at the park, all without having to get in your car. I'm not sure how you're going to get your groceries home, but I guess that's our problem, not theirs.
Where do we get to shoot our guns?
Oh. Come to the next NOACA meeting and ask them, okay? Okay, so this is just some more information about the TLCI program. I just wanted to show you, buzzwords. Okay, sustainable development, multimodal transportation, complete and green streets. That's something we didn't talk about, but again, they're buzzwords. This is directly from from the NOACA website. Okay, environmental justice. See that? Blah blah blah. Here's their actual grant application. Just a couple excerpts. When streets are designed only for cars, they deny people the opportunity to choose more active ways to get around, such as walking and biking. Because you can't just go outside and walk, right? Also, they cited smartgrowthamerica.org as a wonderful source for their plan. Here they talk about the railroads, unused railway spurs and easements can be explored for their potential for rails to trails conversion, right? We talked about that. Sustainable development, environmental, social equity, and economic. Remember that Agenda 21 logo. That's exactly what this is. All right, this is a very terrible map of the Northeast United States region. So here's Cleveland. This is Ohio, sort of right here. This is rails to trails that already exist. And the woman from, I think she was the National Park Service, actually came to the last meeting for this Central Lake County Lakefront Connectivity Plan, public visiting, whatever, and she was so excited to see what they were doing and things that they can incorporate it into their grander Rails to Trails initiative. See how they circled in purple? That's us. Large vacant parcels within the plan area that were formerly used for industrial uses such as railroad yards. All right. Here's where the money is, just in case you were curious. So $75,000 came from NOACA, and then each of these entities contributed this many dollars towards the plan. These were some questions from their visioning session. So what kinds of bike paths will be included? I wanted to point out the side path, the widened sidewalk, which led to this next question. So if the sidewalk in front of my house is widened, will I be responsible for maintenance like I am for the sidewalk currently? Because basically the planners are trying to say, oh, this isn't going to cost you guys any money. Somebody asked them if the cities were going to be responsible for maintaining these paths, and the planners were like, oh no, we're going to find grants to pay for that. Well, first of all, grants are not permanent sources of funding. You put these things in, they're permanent, they're always going to be maintained. There's going to be a need to maintain them, right? So at some point your city is going to pay for it, or maybe you will be paying for it if they wrap it all into the sidewalk. And we don't know that until the city councils and township trustees get involved. Right now it's just in the planner's hands. So the planners just kind of are like, oh, let's do this, let's do that, it's great. All right, so here's the timeline for the plan. They're having another public meeting in the fall. So when that's actually scheduled, I'll let you guys know, and it would be great if you would show up and provide your input that they can ignore, but please still show up, okay? Because people do see it. They're going to have a final report at the end of the year, and then next starts yet another phase of the planning, which means more money. All right. Building sustainable communities, I just wanted to show you that it's not just here. This was the Ohio Township Association Winter Conference that was just in January in Columbus. This is all of the township trustees from all over the state come to this conference. This is just a few slides from their presentation. All right, sustainable development. You guys recognize this? World Socialist Party? You recognize this? This is supposed to be 3 circles. That's the Agenda 21 logo. I don't know what that is. And then we're at the very near end of the presentation, so stick with me for about 2 more minutes. So this is currently NOACA's legislative agenda. You guys are going to love this. Believe me, it's working. See the consensus driven, right? Okay. So NOACA's legislative platform, according to them, represents consensus-driven principles that have been approved by NOACA's 45-member board, except for 2 of us. They were like, no, God, no. It's intended to guide policy analysis and advocacy, places a premium on sustainability. They have both federal and state legislative priorities. Notice what they want to do here.
That really bothers me. Constitutional amendment. That really bothers me.
So what this means, this is the Ohio Constitution. Okay? And in the Ohio Constitution, currently, our gas tax dollars cannot be used for anything other than roads and bridges projects. NOACA complains, on one hand, that they don't have enough money to maintain our roads and bridges, and so therefore the federal government needs to increase the gas taxes that they're charging. Okay? But on the other hand, they'll say, but we want to take away from the pool of money that's specifically supposed to be devoted to roads and bridges so that we can build our bike lanes and bike paths, like bus depots and whatever. Now that would require a constitutional amendment, all right? And this is what they're lobbying for. Guess who they've hired to lobby? Anybody recognize this company? McDonald Hopkins? Anybody doesn't know who this is? Guys represent that name right there?
Oh, gosh.
Told you you'd love it, see? See?
What's the date of this?
January, well this letter is January 8, 2013. They're currently hired from January of this year through June because the vote on the federal transportation bill is going to be in May. So I guess they're lobbying till May, they're going to vote, and then in June they're going to celebrate their success, I guess is what's going on. Our tax dollars, by the way, NOACA is spending. Okay. Now, this is optional, and it's up to you, okay, because I know that there's been a lot of information, this has been long. I have audio from the NOACA meeting that was in January, it's about 10 minutes, all right? Let me know if you want to hear it or don't want to hear it. Either way, you're not going to hurt my feelings if you don't. It's basically Mary Samiti talking about how wonderful she thinks it is in Amsterdam because she went and visited there on vacation, and everybody commutes by bicycle, and it's just so progressive. And it's just so wonderful. Now, if you don't know who Mary Samiti is, she is the former Republican Geauga County Commissioner. She's the one that Skip Claypool beat last year, and now he's the current commissioner. Okay, so she's like, I love bike. And I'm like, wait a second. So you get to hear me kind of take her out. And then the icing on the cake is at the very end, Dan Troy mutters under his breath. Now his mic was not on, but he must have been sitting close enough to the recording device that it picked up what he said at the end. So,
let's listen.
Yeah.
okay, all right. It's 10 minutes, but this is pretty much the end, I think, of the presentation. So,
where is it?
oh, sorry. It's the little. Go back. It's the little. It's this little icon.
Because we don't have a lot of time on that because in order to meet the requirements of the Ohio Revised Code, that has to be passed by April the 1st. So we've got a shorter period of time than we would have on the normal budget, which doesn't have to be passed till the end of June. So, along with the encouragement in there to possibly look at the Ohio constitutional change, which
this is Dan Troy, your commissioner.
Either initiative petition or 60% of both houses of the legislature putting on the ballot, it would require approval of all the people of the state of Ohio in a referendum to change that. There are other considerations being taken place at the state too, and I think if we can include those somewhat, Marvin, I know County Commissioners Association has gone on record in their platform, and I believe it's in agreement with the Ohio Township Association, the Ohio Municipal League, other groups, to ask for additional local authority with the County Engineers Association, obviously very, very integral part of this too. Additional $5 license plate tax capacity in order to generate additional money on county level to address some of the backlog of infrastructure needs. And again, it's permissive authority. It requires the Board of County Commissioners to actually act that. So, that's one of the things that maybe we want to look at in the state agenda. Obviously, the federal agenda just got back from the National Association of County meetings. The Federal Highway Trust Fund is going to go bankrupt in May. Some serious action has got to be taken rather than the continuing resolutions that continue to take place on that. So I know that, I saw Congressman Joyce. I've indicated to him that, this is a very high priority at the National Association of Counties meetings. The representatives of the United States Chamber of Commerce were there. They indicated very clearly, listen, we're the United States Chamber of Commerce. We don't like taxes. We don't advocate for tax increases, but we are strongly in support of some revenue increase to fund the Highway Trust Fund because of the fact that it's operating on the same revenues that they had in 1993. And I think any of us look at our particular governments, and if you're asked, could you operate the government today on the same amount of funding that you had in 1993, we'd say, well, that's kind of ridiculous assignment. So whatever we can do in that particular area, but I think, continue to pound on your congressional representatives and say, however you're going to do this, we need to make some decisions in terms of long-term sustainability of that Federal Highway Trust Fund, because it's just an integral part of what we do in this country in terms of addressing our infrastructure needs. And it's not just roads and bridges. We've got ports that are needing a lot of work. We've got railroad areas that need a lot of work. It's just that, if we want to be successful economically, I think that's what the U.S. Chamber of Commerce is saying. We need to have a good transportation system. And right now in the world rankings, the United States transportation system gets a D. So that's not great. I think any of us are ever proud if we've received one of those in our educational careers. So whatever we can do there. Thank you, Marvin. Thank you.
Anything else from the body? Yes, Ms. Lloyd.
Going back to my suggestion earlier about prioritizing our spending, the comment or response that I received back was, well, we're mandated to do these other things, the multimodal. If we're establishing a legislative agenda, wouldn't it make sense to lobby less of those mandates so that we could actually choose to spend the money on basic infrastructure needs like roads, bridges, safety, that kind of thing? Wouldn't it make sense to take this opportunity to do that then? And then we wouldn't need to increase the amount of money that's in the trust fund because there wouldn't be so many requirements on us to spend it in a million different ways. We could focus it on the things that are needed.
In response to that, I would say everyone has different priorities in regards to transportation and multimodal, even though you exclude it as a priority, there are a lot of us here who think it's very important. Sure, go ahead, Mary.
I would also say in Geauga County, where multimodal is real important, is for the Amish. We have had tremendous suggestions to the county engineer to add paths along the side of the roads, because what happens with buggies, it's just not safe for them. There's just not room. So we have been asked, and that is considered multimodal because it's horse and buggy. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but there's actual ridges in the roads from the buggies. And they constantly have to fix that.
By the way, how many people rode their bike here today?
This is Skip.
Okay, no, good. Okay, cool. All right. One comment, and let me preface this comment with this. I think a little differently than this board. I understand that. I get that. And generally when I speak, you tune me out. That's okay. I get that. But understand something. When we want to change a constitutional provision where we made a promise to pay for roads with certain tax dollars, and now we want to change that promise. That's what we've done now federally, because initially when the federal system was set up, we were going to pay for our roads, and then we decided we were going to put it into transit and all these other things. We broke a promise to the people that we made the promise to. This is what this money is going to go to. I think that's fundamentally wrong. If you want to fund other things, fine. Take that to the public and sell that. Don't break a promise to people and siphon off dollars and now say, oh, we're broke and we need to fix the roads because we siphoned all this money off in different directions. Now, I know maybe that's contrary to what a lot of you think, and that's okay, but think about that for a second. We make promises to people, and we're breaking those promises when we change those things. And so I'm going to ask you to just bake on that. I would oppose this legislative agenda for that reason. And I just oppose changing that specific provision within this. And by the way, there's nothing wrong with fixing things locally. We had talked about local. Local to me is not NPOs. Local to me is if we've got a need in Geauga County to fix our roads, it's better to change our structure if we need it in Geauga County, to do that locally with a levy, and we take care of 1,000 miles of roads. ODOT only takes care of 200 miles of those roads. It's better to consider local solutions, state tax solutions versus federal tax solutions, local levy solutions versus state solutions when you can do that because it's more effective. And so I'm just going to ask you to think about that.
I just want to make one more comment about bike trails. While we here in Geauga County may not be riding our bikes to Nowaka, I can tell you from my experience of traveling, and I'll give you a few examples up in Boston, in New York, all the way up in north, all the way up to Canada, they're biking all over the place. In Amsterdam, they have 12 million people. They have 8 million bikes. In Germany, in Italy, in France, all over. And they've done that because the price of gasoline in Europe was $8 a gallon. And they found that type of, so they're way ahead of us in that. And there's plenty of places in the United States.
They're way ahead of us.
I don't think so. Just take a trip up north.
I'm going to Philly this weekend. I've been there a dozen times in the last 6 months, and I can guarantee you, I'll take pictures. They have lots and lots of bicycle trails. There will not be one bike rider on those bicycle trails in the wintertime.
Okay. Any other discussion pertinent to the conversation other than our travels across the states and the country?
I have one comment in response to Ms. Samiti. I heard you make that statement, I think at the last NOACA board meeting, because I'm new to the board, but I'm not new to the meetings. I have been in the audience before on multiple occasions. And I just find that, again, this is so backwards to me that a country where they're traveling mostly by bike is considered ahead of us. I think it was maybe 100 years, 125 years ago or so, before we had vehicles here. When in America, people were traveling mostly by foot, horse and buggy, and bicycles. And when vehicles were invented, that was an improvement to their transportation situation. So to me, when I hear of people mainly traveling by bicycle, that's regressive to me. That is not progressive.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Lloyd.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Phil. All those in favor? Opposed?
No.
Okay. You probably couldn't hear Mr. Troy there at the end.
Because we don't have a lot of time on that,
Okay. You couldn't hear. You couldn't hear. You couldn't hear Commissioner Troy at the end, but what he mumbled under his breath was, it's progressive because we're worried about global warming.
If there's global warming, why do we have a cold winter?
Right?
Well, because of global warming.
Boston,
Yeah, that's right. Global warming caused the cold winter. Isn't that what they said?
Boston has
Yeah.
6 feet of
No, it's
global
not
warming.
global warming, it's climate change.
Climate change, that's right, climate change. Okay, do we have time? What time is it? Do we have time for questions? Yeah, these are just quotes, they're gonna scroll through a little bit, so, ooh, hi. Does anybody have any questions? Yes.
If this has been in process for so long, how do we stop it?
I know, I feel the same way. It's daunting to think about because they have spent so many years implementing this and making progress, and now we're having to play catch up. I think, number one, and this is going to be easier said than done, but we have to elect people who know what's going on and are willing to stand against it. In the meantime, because we also have to find those people, what we need to do is educate people. Because even though those people that are sitting in those positions right now probably don't know any of this and they're just hearing the pretty language and thinking, oh, this sounds great, and they're going along with it. If we explain to them what's going on, if they are reasonable people, they will be awakened to it just like Rosa Koire was. I mean, she was a serious liberal and she managed to figure this out because she's smart. All right. Hopefully some of our elected officials are smart enough to be, and reasonable enough to be able to recognize when it's explained to them. The other thing you can do is please, please, please come to these NOACA meetings. Skip and I try to make them as entertaining as we possibly can for you, okay? They're 3.5 hours long, all right? You don't have to stay for the whole thing. Luckily for you, public comments right at the beginning, so if you already know what you want to say, you can just say it right at the beginning and get out of there. But please, please, please come. Please express your opinion, okay? Because believe it or not, elected officials do actually pay attention to the squeaky wheels.
There's one other comment about that I put out some information on it.
is in downtown Willoughby. If you've seen the plan for 4 apartment, well, 100, I don't remember how many units now, but 4 stories of apartment buildings going in, no parking,
I saw it.
going into downtown Willoughby. And one of our members, Dave Shoda, wasn't able to be here tonight, called Dave Anderson, the mayor of Willoughby, and was asking him about that. Dave Anderson claimed no knowledge of Agenda 21, didn't know anything about it, but he did mention sustainable community. Okay? So we need to be watching out for those things that are going on in our communities and be talking to our elected officials.
Yeah, that group ICLEI, they provide these planning resource books for local planning departments. So your city or township planning commission might be using these things, you know, as resources for their planning. And speaking of those types of buildings in Willoughby, you guys remember last year's YMCA Dream Home? That I believe, and I could be wrong on this, but I remember hearing them say that that was the worst turnout for ticket purchases. Okay, the market is dictating that the people don't want this, right?
Have you looked at those
Yeah, they
buildings?
went back to
Yeah. And look, I mean, look at, I don't know how many of those are actually occupied, because they had the YMCA Dream Home, but you know, it was part of a condo or whatever development, you know.
Because right across from our Andrews School is in Valley Hills over there too.
Yeah, yep, there's a whole series of.
The tech center and turning that into.
Yeah, I saw that.
Are they?
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh,
right
no,
there.
that's where I used to twirl at the tech center. We used to have our twirling practices at that tech center.
One more question.
Yeah, one more question.
This isn't a question, it's more like a statement. I've been coming to these meetings on and off for a while, whenever I can physically get here and the weather permits. I'm from, excuse my French, but I'm from the county from hell. And for anybody who doesn't know what county that is, it's Cuyahoga. We take 6 steps forward and then we get smashed 4 steps backwards. And it keeps going and going like that. But those of us that are believers, and I've been studying this now for about 2.5 years, and I became a real believer about this when I went to a NOACA meeting one time. The elevator doors opened and they let us out of the elevator, and here's 4 Cuyahoga County Sheriff's deputies dressed in full riot gear. I'm getting goosebumps relaying this story to you as I speak. And I thought, why? To myself, I'm thinking, why? Well, they're scared. They are scared that there's going to be too many of us. At a certain point in time, there's going to be too many of us that are privy to this and want nothing to do with it. You know, and they try to use passive intimidation. That's what I took those full riot gear. I couldn't believe what my eyes were seeing, you know? And then the fact when I found out too that only the commissioners that sit on that board have we elected from our communities, you know, from our counties that we live in.
That's right, that's what
And
I'm
that's
saying,
it.
that, right, you only have a say in the
Those
ones
other
who.
people, they mean
Right.
nothing.
Right.
They mean nothing. But they hold the money and the strings to the money.
I had a question. You had said there was going to be a meeting coming up in the fall?
Yes, that's for the Central Lake County Connectivity Plan. So
Okay,
it's public meeting.
now, you said that when people come and they make comments, regardless of the comments, they don't really get registered. Now, do they videotape these meetings?
No, but it's a public meeting, so we could take a video
Okay,
camera.
because
Yes.
why can't we videotape it?
Yeah.
And then, you know, on alternate media, because it won't probably go into the main media, you know, let people see.
Absolutely, we can. You can do that with the NOACA meetings too. If anybody wanted to come and bring a video camera, it's that kind of thing that we need, you know? So we need people to show up, even if you don't say anything, like even if you're not the kind of person who feels comfortable speaking up, you know, I know that, believe me, I know that that's